Well, welcome to this edition of Vlog on the Blog. It is a live stream video on the blogs that we have been pursuing and posting on X and on Facebook. I'm here with Kevin. So, Kevin, can we still be considered innovators if now this is the second iteration of the vlog on the blog?
Sure, because each time they get a little better and better, a little bit more innovation.
Oh, so you're looking forward to this one being better than the last one?
I am.
I appreciate your confidence. Okay, let's see if we can make that happen.
Optimism.
So again, this is a vlog on a blog, which is the first ever attempt. Well, this is our second iteration of it, but collectively we're doing something that has not been done before. We're combining the two most prominent means of communicating in today's world. There is the vlog that you see primarily on YouTube, although they are published on Facebook and on X. And I think we have now about 12 different channels that we present the YAHOWAH blog. And then there are lots of places where there is a blog, where people blog, they show pictures and images, sometimes videos, and they comment about them. The difference is between a vlog and a blog is on a vlog, most of them, the most interesting, last for anywhere from 30 minutes to most, I think, are in an hour to an hour and a half in length. And so people yabber on quite a long time because, well, people are interesting to listen to and people like to listen. The difference is that when you get to a blog, you get past about 5 or 6 words and you've lost the audience. People just don't want to read. That's why we have this, library of 35 books, 25,000 pages of innovative translations and amplified translations and insights and commentary. You see the books sitting all around me here. And yet we do the vlog to get people interested in reading. And it is in reading that intellectually you're going to make that leap from faith to knowing, and then from knowing to understanding. And once you understand, you're in a position to form a relationship with YAHOWAH based upon who he is, what he's offering, and what he expects in return. So the difference here is now we're going to add depth to a blog because we can vlog for longer than people will pay attention to our words. So here we are. All right, so you've posted the first of these. This is a video, Kevin, of obviously of Putin. And Vladimir Putin has gone on record as to say many hundreds of things here recently that are accurate. And that is rare amongst politicians, particularly if you compare him to Donald Trump, who is a confabulator. A confabulator means there's no correlation between what Trump believes and says and reality. I don't say that to be a pejorative. I say that just to lay it on the line. What he says is so egregious and so erroneous that it's nothing but the product of confabulation. Some would call it dementia. I don't think it's dementia. I think it is literally the psychiatric problem of confabulation. I would encourage our listeners to look up that word, to confabulate, and they would understand that what he believes and what he says is just simply completely estranged from reality. Now, Putin is the opposite of that. Putin has got all the charisma of a piece of stone. I mean, he is just has nothing that you would say, wow, that is really exciting. What a great man. I can't wait to tune in next time. But he's methodical. He's detailed. He understands the subjects that he talks about. And here he is saying that the Ukrainians who have lost 2 million citizens, mostly in war, to Russia's probably lost 150,000. That's probably the ratio, 150,000, almost 2 million. And everyone that has been sacrificed based on an outright lie. And that's Putin's point. They aren't fighting for Ukraine. There's no part of this war that is in the interest of Ukraine. They are fighting because the leaders of Ukraine were bribed going back some 20 years ago and continuing all the way to this day, they were bribed by the United States and then by NATO to wage a proxy war against Russia, because the neocons in the United States saw that Russia was a land filled with natural resources, and America for the past 75, 80 years has been a hegemon. They want total supremacy and total control of the world. And the elitists that really run America want to control all natural resources. So oil, gas, rare earths, they want it all. And their idea was, going back 20 years ago, is they have no respect for anyone or any people or any nationality. They said, break up Russia, and then we can go in and with the smaller parts, we can control them and rape the country of its natural resources. Just the same reason that Trump wants Venezuela now. He wants to rob them of their resources. And that's been the United States operating modus operandi now for, well, ever since the end of World War II. And it's perpetrated by the CIA. And so the path to this war, which is so obvious, and it is so frustrating that 80% of Americans are ignorant of this, is that the United States literally created, led, and armed the coup that overturned the popularly elected pro-Russian government of Ukraine for the express purpose of making Ukraine a weapon that they could wield against Russia. And then you have John McCain and Lindsey Graham on video, not only orchestrating the coup with the U.S. State Department. Nuland was the woman, Victoria Nuland, did that as well, breaking Secretary Baker's promise that if Russia gave Eastern Germany and East Berlin to West Germany to unify Germans again, that America's promise would be that NATO would move not 1 inch closer to Russia. And that's all we've done is welch on that promise. And we were running most of the NATO exercises were being run in Ukraine with the United States saying that Ukraine is going to be part of NATO. And so Russia's national interests were threatened, and she had no alternative but to respond. And then NATO and the United States and the EU and UK not only armed the Ukrainians to go and kill Russians, but they supplied the weapons and they supplied all of the leadership. The leadership running this war are not Ukrainians. They're Brits and they're Americans. And so the result has been a disaster for the United States, for the EU, for the UK, and for NATO. Because with all of the money, hundreds of billions of dollars, huge amounts have been siphoned off because, well, Ukraine has always been easy to bribe. It is the least ethical nation in Europe and has been for a very long time. And they siphoned off most of the money. Zelensky has been the worst of a bad lot. And they have even sold many of the weapons on the black market. And they've put 2 million people into harm's way to die for nothing. Your sound is not working at all. So we have no sound from Kevin. So we'll have to figure out what's going on with that. But this is what has been perpetrated. And now, against the combined force of the Ukrainians, the Americans, the NATO, et al., with all of this, Russia won. And it's overwhelming, the proof that Russia prevailed. The only thing left is for Ukraine and the United States and NATO to surrender, or literally there'll be nothing left to surrender. Yeah, so we're back with no sound at all from Kevin. So I don't know what happened here, but why don't we go to the next? We can any one of these that you want. We can start right with that one. No, the one right above. Don't go down there. This is really crude. And when it was posted, a Christian said, "In the name of Jesus Christ, I plead with you to remove this blasphemous post. It's so irritating and so obnoxious and heresy to my God." And you get, oh God, what is wrong with people? First of all, the whole notion of God being a man is so stupid, it's almost hard to fathom how you could fool. Well, today there's 2.5 billion Christians. How could you fool 2.5 billion people into believing that God's no bigger than a man? And then we still have no sound from him. Then you want people to believe that your God, who now is no bigger than a man, can be killed by men. I mean, how stupid can you be to have a God who is no bigger than a man and then to say that men can kill God? It's absurd. And then you want to say, well, he was resurrected, so he proved that he could come back to life. You know how stupid resurrection, bodily resurrection is? I mean, you finally get rid of this body so that your soul is liberated from it, and you go right back to it, and a body that has been tortured and bludgeoned by the Romans and tortured and through crucifixion, and you want to go back to that body. That is somehow a good thing, that you would reoccupy that body? I mean, the whole notion from beginning to end of a dead God on a stick is so repulsive that it's just, I say, it's astonishing that you could have 2.5 billion people believe such a lie. Well, we can go to our next slide, or we're going to have to just reboot and start all over again because we don't have any sound from the faraway land on the other side of the world here. This is another post. This is one of my least favorite people. I think it's a woman. She claims to live in Israel, but I think she actually lives in India based upon the counter post that I have seen. And she is all that is wrong with the people who are advocating on behalf of Israel. Her post this time. Okay, I think we have him. The post this time is that she wants the IDF to be unleashed on the world. Globalize the IDF is what Vivid wrote. Well, sure. What did the IDF do? Well, was napping when 4,000 Muslim jihadists in tennis shoes came in across the border and raped and terrorized and plundered and murdered and then abducted almost 3,000 Jews over the course of 12 hours, where the IDF did nothing. So right. If that's your idea, you want to globalize that? Perfect. And then what did the IDF do after that? They destroyed Gaza. So, sure, let's globalize them. Let's turn the rest of the world into Gaza. That'll be great, right?
Right.
How could you be so stupid? This is why I just get so frustrated at the pro-Israel accounts. I mean, I'm as pro-Israel as any human being on the planet, probably more pro-Israel than any human being on the planet. Care more about God's people, obviously, than they do about themselves.
Right.
And then you read something like this, globalize the IDF, celebrating what they have done, which is to completely sleep on the job as Israel is being bludgeoned by Muslims, and then go in and destroy Gaza because they took the bait. That is exactly what Sinwar wanted. If you read his last letter, which was published here not long ago, about the brutality that he wanted and the rapes and the tortures and this sort of thing, what he wanted was to brutalize and ravage Jews to the point that he could count on them being so angry that they would invade Gaza and destroy it. You say, well, wait a minute, why would he want that? He was living in Gaza. Because he knew that the sacrifice of 10,000 Muslim lives in Gaza would lead to the destruction of Israel and to the deaths of millions of Jews. And that is precisely what's happened. Israel was played. They took the bait. They went into Gaza. They killed tens of thousands of people. They turned the entire enclave into a demolition zone, turned the entire world against them, became a vassal of Donald J. Trump, who is betraying them and abusing them as we speak, who's going to be the one who ultimately sponsors the Fakistani Islamic State of terror. And this is what you're celebrating, that you were played and that you isolated yourself from the world and demonized Israel such that the entire world turned on you. Yeah, globalized the IDF. It's just disgusting.
I don't see anything that the IDF is doing other than other militaries do, other than at least they're defending their own country. You know, they're not actively putting boots into Iran or, hey,
wrong.
No?
Absolutely wrong. They're not defending Israel and Gaza. Not defending Israel and Gaza.
Well,
they're destroying. They're destroying Israel and Gaza. They didn't defend Israel in Lebanon or in Iran. They damn near destroyed the country by going into those places. They are unwilling to identify the actual enemy. You want to defend Israel, you need to know that your enemy is Islam. You want to have a weapon that you can wield to protect Israel, read the 5 volumes of Goddamn Religion. They're free at YAHOWAH.com. That is the only weapon that can be wielded to protect and to spare and to save Israel. And if you want a defender of Israel, set down the weapons and choose YAHOWAH. Return to YAHOWAH, and you will have the defense that you need. And if you want to know your enemy and respond to your enemy in a way that will destroy them, read Goddamn Religion so that you know who you're fighting against. Because everything else they have done has been counter to Israel's interests. And it's so obvious. The prophets spoke of it. They said that we're entering a period of the time of Israel's troubles where 2 out of every 3 Jews are going to die.
Wow, man.
Where there are going to be so many terrorists, they're going to flood into Israel, they can't be counted. The entire hills, everything of Israel is just going to look like a wave of death. This is what they're headed towards. So no, they aren't defending Israel. They're destroying Israel.
Recognize what they've actually done.
Correct. They can't. I mean, listen, the only military in the world that I would support is the IDF, Israel's.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only country on earth that's actually worth defending in this regard. And I understand that they're surrounded by 2 million Muslims who hate them. But when you integrate Islam into your own nation, when between Judea, Samaria, Gaza, and Israel, you have more Muslims than you have Jews, and you celebrate that fact in direct conflict with God's instructions to you. And you brought this enemy inside, and then when they attack you over and over and over and over again, you can't even bring yourself to identify who the enemy is. When 10/7 happened, October 7th, I immediately recognized it was a reenactment of Kabar. Early morning attack on a Jewish farming community with the Jews being murdered, enslaved, plundered, raped, and tortured. It's exactly what Muhammad did to Kabar following the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, which is the single most important act in Islam because it says that any agreement between a Muslim and a non-Muslim is not binding on the Muslim. It's affirmed in the 9th surah of the Quran. And so that is what we witnessed. And there wasn't a single person in Israel that recognized it or responded appropriately.
Yeah, you responded. You wrote a letter to let them know exactly what they needed to do, laid things out, 5 points.
I did.
Very simply.
I did. Yep, I did. I wrote it's a 100-page letter that I wrote on the morning of 10/7. of 23 and told Israel, this is what you're going to do and why it's going to fail. And this is what you should do and why it would succeed. And I laid out each of the things they needed to do if they were to prevail against this enemy. And I said, but I don't think you're going to do any of them. But nonetheless, I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to lay them all on the line. Not only did I write the letter, I included it in the first volume of Goddamn Religion. If you want to read it, go to volume 1 of Goddamn Religion. It's this happens to be volume 3, but the covers look very, very similar. Go to YAHOWAH.com, go to the volume 1. You'll find a chapter in there called At War with Religion. That is my open letter to Israel, and I did 3 or 4 comprehensive vlogs on it immediately thereafter. And the morning of 10/7, I had a discussion with the aforementioned YAHOWAH, where I had already written Prophet of Doom, which is one of the most read books in the world, the most comprehensive analysis ever at denunciating Islam and the Quran, Allah, and Muhammad. And I was in the middle of writing at the time about the destruction of Gaza and Zephaniah, and that morning, and I remember saying, "Oh God, yeah, well, this is simply Muhammad reenacting Kabar. This is exactly what you had your prophets tell us was going to happen." I know at this point the only answer for Israel happens to be in Prophet of Doom, which I wrote 24 years ago. And I knew that it was the only book I hadn't rewritten. You know, every book I've gone back and edited and rewritten 8 or 9 times. Yeah, because we're constantly learning. And as you learn, you want to update with what you're presenting. And I remember how horrible writing about Islam is. The Quran is the worst book ever written. Allah spends all of his time in hell. Yeah. Muhammad was a pedophile. He was incestuous. He was a rapist. He was a ruthless terrorist. Everything about Islam is revolting. It is like going into hell. And so I remember that morning I said, I'm really happy continuing to write the 3rd volume of Coming Home studying and translating Daud's Mizmor or Psalms. You don't really want me to have to go back into and update Prophet of Doom, do you? I know I can't promote Prophet of Doom now because it's too outdated, but you don't want me to write that, do you? I don't want to do that.
Right? What's he say?
I took care of you. Now you take care of my people.
Yeah.
Okay. You put it like that. So I spent the next year. I rewrote Prophet of Doom. It's now the 5 volumes. They're 825 pages apiece. And in them, I analyze every word of the Quran, every hadith that pertains to the time in Muhammad's life that the Quran was revealed. I put the Quran in chronological order, and I prove that Islam is incompatible with life, that Allah's goal is the total genocide of humanity. And I also prove that the only reason the Quran exists today is because rabbis sold Muhammad their Talmud stories.
And that's one of the bigger things that comes out of the whole series, because it was touched upon originally through Prophet of Doom. But I think after writing the Babylon series and really getting into Judaism, that you were able to see more of that and to flesh it out more, that it wouldn't exist. You've said the Quran was a pamphlet. Nobody would have listened to it if it wasn't for the stories out of Yathrib, the Talmud stories.
Yeah. Muhammad would have been a flea on Genghis Khan's behind. I mean, Genghis Khan had far more religious texts, far more glorious conquests and robbing and plundering. Genghis Khan and Kublai Khan and Tamerlane after him were all vastly superior at what Muhammad was good at, which was terrorism, murder, armed robbery, that sort of thing, and religious slogans to support armed robbery and murder and that sort of thing. And the only thing that made the Quran and Islam distinct from Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan, Tamerlane, that ilk, is that Jews in Yathrib, today's Medina, sold Talmud readings from the Babylonian Talmud that had been completed about 100 years earlier to Muhammad. And he used them in the Quran. He attributed them to Allah, twisted them to suit his situation. And when he stopped paying his bills and the rabbis started mocking him, he did what all psychopaths did. He said, I kill you. And he did. Mm-hmm. And he perpetrated apartheid and then genocide on the Jews of Arabia. Every Jewish man and boy he murdered, every Jewish woman he raped, and every Jewish child he sold into slavery. And it is largely because rabbis created the Quran by selling Muhammad Talmud stories. That's the whole reason why there is an Adam in the Quran. It's why there is a story of Noah in the Quran. It's why Abraham is in the Quran. It's why Ishak and Jacob and Ishmael and Hagar and the whole lot. The whole reason they're in the Quran, why there's a mention of Solomon and Daud, is because rabbis provided Muhammad with the material. And the parts that weren't coming from the rabbis, the parts in the last two surahs chronologically that speak of a Esos, which is Esau, but now assumed to be Jesus, is that somebody found a copy of the Gospel according to Thomas, and all of the stuff that's attributed to Jesus in the Gospel of Thomas became the references to Christianity, although Muhammad, being really stupid and trying to combine the stories that he bought from the rabbis and the stories that he was hearing from the Gospel of Thomas, confused Mary, who's the only woman that's mentioned in the Quran. She's mentioned over and over again. Of course, she never existed, but there was a Mary. And so because Miriam happened to be Moshe's sister, the embittered and rebellious one, in the Quran, it's Moshe's sister that is Jesus's mother. Just how stupid the book is. But anyway, that's the story. And if you want to be able to destroy Islam, you have to start with those two scars on the Temple Mount. You begin by destroying the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque, and until you do that,
and Dabrim 12, tear down there,
tear down that boil and rid the world of that mosque. And until you do that, Israel, your IDF is a waste of time. You're offending God. You're offending your Messiah. You're offending me. Tear down that mosque. You want to use the IDF for something? Have the IDF do to the mosque and the shrine what they did to Gaza.
Yeah, it's 6 hours of work. They can take care of that.
Yes, I'm all for it. If they don't, I will.
Yeah.
Don't doubt me. I will. Okay. Oh, this is an interesting thing. You can't go too far down, or can't read the top of it, which is my comment on it. But they were somebody was complaining that a lot of Christians don't follow Christ. They follow their church culture, their pastor's opinion, or whatever validates their bias, and they call it God. So I'm just here to tell you, there was no Mr. Christ. The whole thing is the bias of Paul. He created Jesus in 52 CE. And so the whole fraud is not what the church is saying or what you think. It is the entire Christian New Testament. It is a fraud from beginning to end. Jesus is a counterfeit. He is the product of identity theft. And you don't think so, then you just go read the 5 volumes of Twistianity. Here you go. There's a volume of Twistianity. There are 5 of these. They prove emphatically, probably 1,000 times over, that Christianity is a fraud, that Jesus never existed, and that Christ is a counterfeit of David. And then they do something better than that. They actually replace the lie with the truth, so you might know it. But let's be clear. Jesus is not someone who ever lived. It's a complete fabrication. All right, sir. What do we have next?
Let's roll.
Oh my, yeah. This I'm just really,
Doge, huh?
yeah. I'm just so disappointed. When Elon Musk was an entrepreneur, you will find in the period when I started on Facebook and on X back in January, December, and January, I wrote probably 20 articles in favor of Elon Musk. And having been an entrepreneur, having taken 2 companies public that I founded, and know the rigors of being an entrepreneur and how difficult it is to be inventive and to be successful with the companies that are highly inventive, I came to have tremendous respect for the man because he pulled it off with Tesla. He's since lost it, but he pulled it off with Tesla initially, with SpaceX, or the SpaceX now has nowhere to go. And I thought he was going to do something extraordinary with X, but X is now the worst of the social media platforms in terms of being able to effectively tell the truth. And it's literally a cesspool of anti-Semitism and racism, and it's far worse than the mainstream media. So X has become, in my view, a complete and utter failure. We're here only because our mission is to awaken the world to the truth about YAHOWAH, to his beloved son Dode, and to the possibility of salvation by knowing them and responding to them. So no matter the level of abuse, the stench of the swamp, we're going to present the truth there, and knowing that it's highly unpopular. But the fact of the matter is that on a scale of 1 to 10, in my view, on DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, and I wrote this at the time, that Elon was an absolute disaster. Well, the nation needed someone to do this job. They needed someone with the discipline and the acumen to understand the U.S. Constitution and do the job appropriately. And I'm not saying this as a Monday morning quarterback. I wrote this at the time, and I posted both on Facebook and X, maybe 50 posts, and saying, you're making a bad situation worse with all of the hype, with your chainsaw and all of your accusations. You've accused person after person of embezzling money, and yet you're proving none of it. You have absolutely no evidence that you're showing. You have no indictments. You have no convictions. You have nothing. All you have is hype. And when you have nothing but hype, and then you pursue this, not using Congress, but you take on the same Der Fuhrer mindset of Donald Trump and think that America is a monarchy and that you can do anything you damn well please, as opposed to recognizing that Congress has the responsibility for expenditures. And so if you're going to expose fraud in expenditures in the U.S. government, you have to work with Congress. If you can't work with people, then get out of government. That was the job. But for you to pretend that you could do all of this as a CEO under Trump's authority, when the president does not have budgetary authority under the U.S. Constitution, I knew what he was doing was going to be a disaster, and that he would make a bad situation worse by getting into something that desperately needed to be done, but by doing it the wrong way and making himself out to be a fool and be hated by the world, that he was going to do untold damage to his companies, which he did. I mean, Tesla right now is in free fall. He not only did undue damage to himself, destroyed his credibility in the process, but now he ruined the whole idea of finding government inefficiency because of how big a mess this turned out to be. So pretending to be the elephant signal, so they're representing the MAGAs, no, he made a bad situation worse. He was the Gaza invasion of the U.S. government.
Yeah, making the bad. Folks aren't going to go along with this sort of thing anymore because they can look and say, well, you had your best guy, Elon, on it, and we got nowhere with it. So what can anyone else do? And it was funny, they were talking in terms of millions and billions of the money that Doge was finding. And this is in terms of what, $42 trillion of debt. It's
38 trillion of federal debt, and then much more when you consider state debt and other unpaid, unfunded mandates. It gets into the hundreds of trillions, but it's 38 trillion in terms of the U.S. Sovereign debt. But yes, what in the world is $1 billion is a lot of money. I assume I've never had. Well, I did actually for a brief time. I was a billionaire. Well, come to think of it, in fact, I hated it. That brief exposure. I remember saying, "Oh no, I've never been more vulnerable in my life. This is a really, really uncomfortable position." But billions in the U.S. government are essentially nothing. They're not even rounding errors. They're not even the period at the end of a sentence, and the fact is that you can claim that there are a lot of people receiving Social Security benefits that are dead, and that you can claim that we're giving them to illegal aliens and all that sort. I've got no problem with that. Purge the rolls of them, but you have to be able to do it such that you prove it, and that you rectify the situation through Congress. You don't just do what Trump does. This is my sensational story for today. I'll have a new one tomorrow. Stay tuned. Yeah. We'll forget about this one because we'll have a new one tomorrow.
Oh, he relished in standing behind that podium and reading off the list of 7 people, 203 years old, still receiving Social Security. And it's like, absurd.
It's absurd. Yeah. No, this is a disaster. What I'm finding, though, is that I don't know if it's, well, I would say I can't say I don't know. I do know. Elon Musk announced about 3 weeks ago that he was forming the way that X operates, and that Grok would be responsible for reading every post on X and then feeding you what Grok thinks you want in your feed for you to respond to, which also means your feed is going to be, your comments are going to be distributed as Grok sees fit. And when that happened, what I found is that I was inundated with Musk telling us how wonderful he was. The guy that says, I don't care what you think about me. I don't care about money. I don't care about anything. I don't care. Yeah, I don't want money. The guy that groveled all over X for the pay raise at Tesla. I don't want money. And I don't care what you think about me. The guy who is now dominating X, who is using X as if it were his publicist. And that's what I'm dominated with. And so what I'm seeing in Elon Musk is the opposite of who he says he is. I'm looking at a absolute pure and total hypocrite.
Sure.
Go ahead, sir. Spin the wheel. What do we come to?
Spin the wheel.
Oh, yeah. This is it shows that as a man who suffers from Asperger's, I don't know if you're familiar with Asperger's, but Asperger's is, they claim it's now on the autism spectrum. I disagree with that personally, but Asperger's is named after the German who studied it. And it is a psychiatric disorder where the person who has Asperger's has typically a number of traits in common, and the most concerning is a lack of empathy. And that somebody who lacks empathy has to project whatever they want you to believe about them, as they do not have the normal human response to right and wrong, good and bad. And therefore he has to make up his own rules and project what he has. And when I see him following between two Muslims, what he is saying here is money means more to me than morals.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's what it says. We know, and if he were a bright man, he would know that Qatar and Saudi Arabia have bribed Trump, and that they have bribed universities, and they have bribed the influencers who thrive on X, and that by doing so, they are weakening and destroying the United States. And he is there seen marching with them because of oil. They have lots of money, and he craves money. I see a hypocrite. I see a man who doesn't have morality, who claims it, but lacks it.
The guy has an electric car company. I don't know what he's seeing in other than money, right? What he's seeing that he's going to gain from Saudi Arabia. They're definitely not into the free speech, free change of ideas.
No.
You know, so it's a place for me to...
Starlink means nothing to them other than to use it as a weapon, and SpaceX means nothing to them unless it can be to lift satellites into the air that will be used in nefarious ways
to kill more
Jews. Certainly, a company that floats on a sea of oil and gas is not interested in the inefficiency of an electric car.
Yeah.
So there is no natural affinity there, but these Muslims that have all this money, like Qatar and Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, they love controlling social media platforms and influencers, and he happens to own one. And therefore, they're willing to send lots of money to him. And at this point, he wants money for Gronk and for XAI. And guess who's the primary financiers? These fellows right here.
That's right. Well, he goes... There's another article... further down where he talks about the media and where how they control the narrative and everything, and it was so strange because he's doing precisely.
Yeah, no, the narrative is now controlled by the influencers on places like X. Oh, no, don't, no, I want to get that. I want to get that right there. He's accused of the Nazi salute right there.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I was the first to announce, and I will stand boldly behind this proclamation. In fact, both of these proclamations, I'm the first to announce both of them. First is Donald Trump is der Fuhrer, and that what he is establishing is the Fourth Reich. Mm-hmm. Nazi Germany was the Third Reich. Born out of Imperial Rome, metastasized as the Roman Catholic Church, and then became the Marxists who spread war around the world under Adolf Hitler as the Third Reich. Donald Trump is the Fourth Reich. That ark that he's building, signal of the Fourth Reich.
Wow. Yeah.
That if you look at the podium that was behind the dinner celebration with MBS in Saudi Arabia last night, it's got the Aquila, big and bold. Not the presidential seal, the Aquila, the Roman eagle. He is building the Fourth Reich. And the salute for the Fourth Reich is not the outstretched flat hand. The salute is the thing that was created at that mock assassination attempt.
Right.
That is Donald Trump's salute. And it has been the salute of MAGA and Donald Trump as der Fuhrer of the Fourth Reich from the beginning. He's got the salute wrong. He needs to get it right.
He has time. It looked like being included with the MBS at the White House and everything. He got a pat on the back from Trump as Trump walked by.
Oh, I see. Plotted him coming by, plotting MBS and Trump as they came by, and he got a pat on the back from Trump. Yeah, he's the Fuhrer's pal again. Without Elon Musk's $300 million, Donald Trump today is bankrupt and in jail.
Yeah.
And Elon bought access to power, and he loved it.
Mm.
That's why he's back.
And he's back. All right, sir. What do you have next? Do you, yada? That's funny. That whole theme. That's not one of our best ones, but it is certainly one of 100 or so that I've seen so far. But I think that's primarily Leah and Mariah that are responsible for doing this, and it is pretty amazing. You can actually play this video. You'll see Elon there, and he's the one that's clapping for the end. You go for it there, Elon. You are responsible. Okay. You're responsible for, and that vine was a little loud, by the way. But anyway, you're responsible for it. You might as well revel in it and accept responsibility. And I don't want this to be rag on Elon moment, but it is essential that people get a understanding of what's happening here, because X is being used now to promote the myth of Elon Musk. And you wonder why it has turned to that. This man that says, I don't care what you think about me. Mm-hmm. The reason it's turned to that is he's in a world of hurt right now. Yeah, you say, oh, he's worth $500 billion. First one ever to reach that plateau. Tesla is a dying company. They can't give away their flagship, which is the Cybertruck. They've got 800 million of them in stale inventory, and there's nothing they can do to resolve that problem. And they're essentially shutting down the manufacturing plant that they spent hundreds of billions of dollars in special batteries for that Cybertruck because nobody wants them. And then you've got the fact that he built a huge factory in China, and it's gone from 20-something% market share in China down to like 4%. He's got his head handed to us in China, and there's nothing to do with that factory. He can't make anything in that factory that people want to buy in China. And then you look at his sales in Europe, and they've fallen in 80 to 90% since his stunt with Donald Trump. And then you look at Tesla overall. If it wasn't for this last quarter, where it was the last vestige of the $7,500 federal incentives to buy an EV because they're not worth anything otherwise, there'd be no reason that you'd buy one. It's a spiral down, and the stock is priced at 300 times earnings, which is 10 times. I mean, Apple is, hugely profitable and growing and stable and has defensible positions, and Apple only trades at 30 times earnings. It's trading at 300 times earnings, and its EV market is evaporating, and its gross margins on its vehicles are less than half of what they were 2 years ago. And so what he's selling now is hype. That's why he's selling Optima as the solution. Oh, we're going to end poverty. We're going to end all healthcare problems. We're going to be the fountain of everlasting life, because you'll be able to put your consciousness in an Optima of your choice.
It'll follow you around and keep you from doing crime.
Again. We'll end poverty. It's all a complete farce. No, none of that is going to happen. And he knows it's not going to happen, but that's all he's got to sell now is the hype of Optima. You look at SpaceX, there's nowhere to go with it. We're never going to the Mars. If we were to land a person on Mars, it would be to kill them there. It would be nothing but a vanity project to have, say, we landed people on Mars, and if they survive the journey, 50-50 maybe. If they survive the landing, maybe worse than 50-50.
As long as we don't go between metric and imperial.
Right. There is zero. Yeah, I know. It's funny. There is zero possibility that they will get off that Mars and return here. Mars is a death zone. Everything in Mars works against life existing there. Yeah. You would be, if you want to have a place that is protected from all the ravages that are going across this country and this world, either build something under the sea or under the ground. You got a boring company, dig a big hole, and you don't have all of
Bezos said the other day they need to move the AI centers to the moon, and I'm like, the whole point of the moon is to keep the asteroids from hitting the Earth. Look at that thing; it's full of craters. It's not safe.
No, it's not. It's just astonishing, but he's in trouble because his whole world now is based on hype, and there is no rationality to it at all. It's like the whole Bitcoin thing. It's based strictly on hype. In fact, the U.S. dollar, the U.S. economy is based on hype and belief too. There's no substance to any of these things anymore. And so maybe by being in politics, he's realized, well, the dollar's actually a liability, and yet people think it has value, maybe I can do the same thing with my companies. But
I think he's well aware of that. He has been for some time.
The only reason after 50 years, Kevin, we're going back to the moon, only one reason. You know what it is?
Keep China off? I don't.
Well, no, China is going to the moon. And so just like we spent a fortune to beat the Russians to show, well, those commies, they can't beat us. We're capitalists. They can't beat us. Those godless commies. We're going to show them. And so we beat them to the moon. And once we beat them to the moon, we looked around and said, well, there's no commies here. What are we doing? And we just disbanded the program and haven't gone back in 53 years. And the only reason there's any interest now is the Chinese are developing really effective rockets. I have a wonderful space station now. And so the Chinese have announced they're going to the moon, put people on the moon. And so, those are godless commies. We got to beat them. And so that's the whole reason we're going to the moon. No other reason. And because there are no godless commies trying to go to Mars, it would only be a vanity project. It would never receive funding. It's probably $1 trillion project. And it would have to be funded as literally a vanity project to do it, because everything about Mars says death.
Yeah, the most expensive funeral in history.
It would be the most. He says he wants to die there. I mean, pretty easy. Yeah, listen, to go and crash on Mars, no problem at all. He could do that for a lot less than $1 billion or $1 trillion.
Well, it's interesting. You were talking about $500 billion, the net worth. It's not like Elon has that in a checkbook, a bank account. It's a net. It's this valuation of all his companies,
all his stock, which are selling at ridiculous multiples, fantasy multiples, absurd multiples.
And he leverages those to banks that actually give him money to do projects. Like I want to go buy X. So yeah, I need $45 million. Let me go to $1 billion. Let me go to this bank and we'll give you so many shares of X, or however they work that out. He's probably, at 300 times, very, very over leveraged.
Yes. And it's going to collapse. Yeah. And it's going to collapse soon. I don't know if it's within the year or within 2 years, but it's going to collapse soon. And one of the reasons that we know it's going to collapse is that Donald Trump is up to his eyeballs in Bitcoin. And his Bitcoin are funded by the same cast of characters here: Pakistan plus United Arab Emirates plus Qatar and Saudi Arabia. And it's the ultimate scheme. We identified $20 billion worth of bribes that Trump and company had taken in the first month of his this presidency and in the months that led up to it. But the Bitcoin thing was way bigger than all of that. And his scheme is that he wants to replace the U.S. deficit and replace the Fed with Bitcoin. And so it will destroy everyone's savings. It'll destroy all stock value. It'll destroy the dollar. The dollar will be replaced with Bitcoin, which is an electronic currency that has no intrinsic value that you establish a value for. And that's what he's going to do. He is going to become the central bank of the United States through a Bitcoin swap, which will bankrupt everybody, including Elon's $500 billion shares are going to be worth nothing.
The shares will be worth nothing. Folks that have dollars, savings, banks are worth nothing, but their debts also go away.
That's right. For most Americans, that's a favorable trade, which is why they will accept it, because the Great Reset, and this is going to be the Bitcoin recess, it does two things. It says that since your debt is in dollars, your debt is forgiven. It goes away. He doesn't have it anyway. It'll ruin all the banks. But what does he care? He is replacing the banks with his own central Bitcoin repository. So for the average American that is $500,000 in debt and has no chance to get out between what they owe for their homes, what they owe on their credit cards, what they owe for their cars, and that sort of thing. The average American is $500,000 in debt, and they making $50,000-$60,000 a year per household, with then taxes and everything else and expenses. They have no way to get out from that. that ultimately telling them, well, your debts are all forgiven. All you have to do is accept my new electronic currency. It's a done deal. That is exactly what he is proposing, and that's why it will be accepted by many people.
Yeah.
Now, you have to be careful too, because there really isn't a hedge against this, because the Bitcoin, for example, it has no intrinsic value. It only is worth what people will pay you for it. So it has no intrinsic value. Mm-hmm. And so that's not really a hedge. Gold has always been a hedge against inflation, but and you have China buying enormous amounts of gold because they're using gold to replace the reserve currency status of the United States. But should gold be sold to finance this Bitcoin transaction, it will destroy the value of gold. So there really isn't a hedge against it. I'm just telling you that we're going to have economic collapse, and it will happen certainly within the next 5 years.
If you have a good company that provides something, food, lumber, a commodity type thing, it works really well because you now have your means of production free and clear, that you can still continue to. I mean, if you're an oil company, you don't have any debt anymore. No, doesn't.
No, because there's no currency. There's no transaction.
No one to buy it.
No one to buy it. The economies are destroyed. So it is economic chaos. And in economic chaos, it doesn't matter what you make, you can't sell it. Yeah. No, it's the end of the world as we know it in terms of economic chaos. But that's where we're headed. And yeah, it was very clear. We know we have less than 8 years left, and the world completely falls apart over that period of time. There's economic collapse and military destruction. The states is that the United States in particular, it's called out and says that it's going to be as if Sodom and Gomorrah with brimstone falling from the sky. It sounds like nuclear holocaust to me.
Well, I don't plan on being here.
No, I'm not going to be here for it either. All right, sir. Well, this is another post of Vladimir Putin. And I watched... Rich will know this, but at the end of the day, I put in typically a 14-hour day, and by the time it's over, so I started about 5:30 in the morning, I finish at 7:30 at night. I guess it's a 2-hour day if you don't count the intervening 12. But at the end of it, the next 2 hours, I watch news programs, and I happen to like YouTube because it tailors the things that it brings up to your viewing habits. And so I see a lot of things that are interesting to me in terms of people talking about things that they know a lot about. And one of them was last night, the inevitability of Germany leaving NATO and leaving the EU. The United States wanted Germany to be part of NATO and part of the EU because it is the principal finance mechanism and industrial engine for both of them. So it has propped up and paid for the indulgences of Europe and of NATO, and it did so out of the guilt of having lost the last two world wars. So they were using, oh, how much money you want? Okay, so it's just driven by guilt. Germans were played by the United States into funding the EU and funding NATO. But the Germans have finally said, I wasn't there when we did those stupid things, and this is really stupid. We don't have a war. We don't have a reason to go to war against Russia. And the last couple of times we're at war with Russia, it really didn't turn out very well for the Germans. So let's just not do that again. That's really stupid. The Russians are willing to sell us inexpensive oil. We can heat our homes. We can run our factories. Why don't we do that instead of building weapons and yelling at them and threatening them, which was a really bad idea the last times we've tried to do it. And so you've got Germans now waking up and saying, what in the world are we doing as part of the EU? What are we doing as part of NATO? And the fact of the matter is, Germans are hugely better off if they stop funding the failures and indulgences of the European Union and the stupidity of NATO. NATO is lost. NATO has squandered everything in its proxy war using Ukraine against Russia, and they lost. They didn't just lose a little bit. It's overwhelming. And I've been saying this now, oh goodness, since January, and I've been posting about this to say that there is a 0% possibility that the Ukraine is going to prevail in this war. Even with full backing of the United States and NATO and the EU and UK, it's not going to happen. Russia will prevail. And now it's overwhelming. I mean, now it's a complete and utter rout. And there's essentially nothing left to surrender. And so I've been saying this for a long time, and now it is so obvious. We're beginning to see other people saying, yeah, I think that not only is that true, but this has been so disastrous for NATO. NATO may well crumble, and Germany may leave the EU and NATO. And that's what he's saying, what Putin is saying here. What in the world is Germany doing as part of these things? It is so much better in the interest of Germany to capitalize on the pipeline. It's still operational, Nord Stream, and it can provide gas for Germany to run its factories. And Germany is in real trouble right now in terms of its prime manufacturing. Its auto manufacturing companies are desperate. I mean, there is a likelihood that we're going to see the big German manufacturers essentially go bankrupt over the next year. In fact, I don't know if you know it, but the automobile industry, even in America, is on the cusp of destruction. We have higher new car inventory at dealers than any time in the history of the automobile. And it is almost twice what it has been previously. And it is exceedingly destructive. People aren't buying automobiles because of a number of things. One is the interest rates have gone way up on the loans. And number two, the cars have become prohibitively expensive. And number three, they have gone, because of the government mandates, government gerrymandering of the system, to making a disproportionate number of electric vehicles, and people don't want electric cars. They just are a lousy value, and they don't perform well. And so you got way too many electric vehicles on the lots that are on selling 6-9 months of inventory. Wow. And so it's not just Tesla that has $800 million worth of Cybertrucks. It's the entire industry right now is in terrible trouble, particularly the electric vehicle part of it. And so what he's saying here, why not? Why not just do business together and stop killing one another? Yeah,
they're both democratic. This is capitalist.
Yes.
What can you possibly have against it?
Yeah, well, the politicians that want war, because without war, they're out of office. It's why Trump is going to continue to fan the flames of war. It's why he's got the U.S. Navy and the Marines all over Venezuela. It's why he was in the White House today talking about putting the Marines in Los Angeles, and he had his Secretary of War, Hinson, saying that we know who you are. We're going to track you down. We're going to kill you. You're the enemy of America. He's talking about drug dealers. I mean, drug dealers are drug dealers for only two reasons. One is that we outlawed something, and when you outlaw something, it's like prohibition and alcohol. What you do is you enrich the people who will provide what other people want. Yeah. And so we did that by making drugs illegal. I don't do drugs. It's coffee and I'll have a glass of wine and an occasional beer. But I don't do drugs. I've never done cocaine in my life. I don't do marijuana. I don't do any drugs. I like life, and I'm happy with the life the way it is. I don't need the drugs. So I just don't do them. And I know that that drugs are hard to kick, so it's much easier not to do them than it is have to figure out how to get off of them. But what my view on drugs is, they all should be legal and stupid. And when you make it illegal, you create an illicit market. And the reason that there are drug sellers in America, they're not terrorists. They're doing a business. And is the business deadly? Yes. But the problem isn't the drug dealer. It's the drug user. This is our problem. And so long as we have addicts on drugs, they're going to buy the drugs.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't go to war and claim that you're defending America by killing drug dealers. And you can't use the military to do it. But that's what he had his press conference today on, is using the military to go into America's cities. Of course, it'd be blue cities, starting with probably Los Angeles. And he's going to declare war against, we know who you are, and we're coming to get you, and we're going to kill you. And it's also a prelude to backtracking. He kept on talking south of the border, south of the border. Trump announced 2 days ago that he wanted to bomb Mexico. And he said, would I do it? Absolutely. I want to bomb Mexico. And he wants to invade Venezuela. And he's giving the exact same false pretense. I mean, almost none of our drugs come from Venezuela anyway. And you don't solve the drug problem by killing the drug suppliers. You solve it by causing people that are using them to stop using them.
Yeah.
That's how you solve the problem, is you help the people that are abusing them get off of them, and you clean up the supply so that there are no drug smugglers. And we're not willing to do those kinds of things. So that's our problem. And he wants to pretend that the people who supply drugs are narco terrorists. There's no such thing. I mean, none. They have no idea, no interest whatsoever in terrorism.
No, not in terrorism. Drug dealers only kill other drug dealers for the market,
for the turf, for the market.
Turf, yeah,
right. And if you were going to say that's terrorism, well, a terrorist killing a terrorist, which should be a good thing. Then we should thank them for doing it. No, it's total nonsense. And yet you have MAGAs. Yeah, that's my guy. That's what I voted for. No.
Give people a reason to live, something to live for. And
we've killed countless people on 20 vessels, and it's just flat out murder. And the Trump administration is celebrating it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and we don't know who this in those boats. I mean,
no,
even if they have drugs, you don't know it's not a fisherman
that,
hey, I can't fish. So
what?
Yeah.
So what if they're filled with drugs? If you have one of those go fasts that is somewhere off the coast of Venezuela, do you know how many times it would have to stop and refuel before it got to American waters? Like 10. No, you have absolutely no jurisdiction, no right. It's just flat out murder, just as is the shakedown of Venezuela. It's crime by any standard. But when Trump made the decision that he would back down, and I came to the conclusion he would back down because the vote was going to happen and the vote was going to be veto proof. So he figured, well, I'm going to lose the vote, so I might as well get ahead of this thing. And the vote was what we had: one person vote against the release of the Epstein files. Mm-hmm. Just overwhelming, essentially unanimous. And so what Trump realizes is that he is so good at being bad. And he is so good at the confusion of chaos, of every day having something else. Like, for example, if the Marines are killing Americans under the pretext of narco-terrorism in Los Angeles,
nobody cares about a list.
That is correct. That is correct. And no one's going to give a hoot about it's just background noise if you invade Venezuela, for example. Mm-hmm. It's just background noise. And so he realizes that he has every possibility of distraction. You force Israel to give up a Islamic State to the Fakistinians. That news is going to be front page. In fact, he just did a deal where he's giving F-35s to the Saudi Arabians. Who's the enemy of Saudi Arabia besides Israel? And so he gave F-35s to Saudi Arabia. He gave all the technology necessary to build nuclear plants. Now, why would a country that floats on a sea of oil want to spend the money to have atoms boil water if they didn't want the daughter products of that nuclear plant, which is what you use to make a nuclear bomb?
We want to be in the club. Yeah.
We want to be in the nuclear club. And he agreed to sell them that. And then because, Islam dumbs people down, what do they need? artificial intelligence. He sold them the keys to the artificial intelligence kingdom. That's why Musk was at the gala. So there you go. We're putting America in a very bad position, and all Trump's going to do is the three things he does exceedingly well. One is chaos. There'll be so many chaotic things that are going to be said and done when those files are released that it'll be impossible for anybody to focus on the files. The second thing is he denies. There's never been a person who denies more vocally, more effectively than does Trump. You know, here he is. He's got the birthday card, and it's got his signature on the bottom of it. He said, "Not my signature." When the Wall Street Journal, which it was, said that, well, in the book we have seen it. It happens to be a drawing that Trump drew, signed, and put in there that, we'll keep our secret. And he said, no, it's not true. It's not in there. No such thing. They published it, and he says, well, it's not my signature. Mm-hmm. He is really good at denying the obvious. And unfortunately, people believe him. And number three, no one has ever been more vicious at turning the tables and attacking others.
Yeah.
And so he is the most vicious. I call him the Hannibal Lecter of politics, a cannibal. He will eat everyone. And so he is really good at those three things, which makes him exceedingly effective at overcoming the Epstein files. I mean, listen, he is the literal incarnation of Satan, according to the prophets, something we have proved. Right. So wouldn't you expect him to be all of these things and worse?
And worse. Yeah.
All right.
He's not going on the next
worse. One? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's not the Antichrist there. That's not even the boogeyman. All right. So this one says, religion. They will ruin your whole life to ensure afterlife for which they have no proof at all. Now, this is the essence, of course, of Islam, but it is also prevalent in Christianity. You be timid now. You let us control you. Let us fleece you. And the return for you, if you allow us, if you're meek and you allow us to control you and fleece you, or in Islam, you do what we tell you and you go off and kill and rob everybody we tell you to go off and kill and rob, is you're going to have an eternity in paradise. It's always sacrifice this life for the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there is no next one for anyone who is religious. And it is the bane of religion. It's this, the religious rob all of those who are gullible of their liberty, of their livelihoods, of their lives in this life,
and their
give
afterlife.
them nothing. Yeah, and they give them nothing for it. So it's a great travesty. There is, by the way, a God. YAHOWAH is his name. We do represent him. And if you want to know him, go to YAHOWAH.com.
Absolutely. This world.
Oh boy. This is
apropos.
This is Carl Sagan. He was a very, very smart man. And he says, I don't want to believe, I want to know. And that really became the entire modus operandi of these 35 books I have written.
Absolutely.
That title right there, Yada means to know. And I began the first book in the first series. In fact, this happens to be it. And I actually began it by saying, I want you to check your beliefs at the door.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if you have beliefs, they're going to be a hindrance going forward. Please discard them. And if you can't discard your beliefs, then you just better not go forward, because those people who believe are not subject to the benefit of evidence and reason. They will always allow their beliefs to somehow put a wall between them and evidence and reason. And so Carl Sagan is saying here, I don't want to believe, I want to know. And my response is that knowing is infinitely better than believing. And when you know, you would not ever have any reason to believe. When people said, what do you believe? I don't. I either know or I don't know. But there is something that is infinitely superior to knowing, which most scientists have never grasped hold of, the thing that scholars miss as well. And it's the very thing that causes AI not to be all that intelligence. And that is understanding is infinitely superior to knowing. And
The why.
to understand, you must make the appropriate connections, finding the common denominators between the things that you have filtered out and discerned are true, and the things that you have put in the other category as false, and combining the things that make sense within those two categories to come to understand why things are wrong and why things are true. And if you can move to that point, then you are infinitely superior to the person that believes by the square of infinite.
I think
Because
it's
knowing
why.
is infinitely better.
Yeah, I think it's why Dode says the Taurus easy for the open-minded.
Yeah, if I were to, and I have, it happens to be the 19th Mizmor or Psalm. Dode's big on the nines. The 19th, the 91st, and the 119th are the three most important psalms. And of course, there's also the 89th, which YAHOWAH wrote about him. When I first translated that, and up maybe to this point, I've always considered that something to which I quibbled with. I do not think that understanding is easy. I think it's hard. I think knowing is hard work. And I think understanding is even more laborious. It's an enjoyable undertaking, but here I've been doing it now for 24 years, 12 to 14 hours a day, 6 and 7 days a week. There is nothing easy about it. You think something is easy, and you write 35 books, and many of them are 825 pages where you create your own amplified translation and in an innovative style that no one has done before. And you strip all the words of the religious trappings, and then you deduce tens of thousands of insights from them by making the proper connections. There's no part of that that's easy.
Yeah.
That's a lifetime of dedicated work. What I actually think that Dode means, and I'll have to pursue this further, is that up to this point, for the first 24 years of my life with YAHOWAH, as I began to write these books and devoted myself to understanding what he was offering and expecting from us in return, it was hard work, but we developed this huge foundation, 25,000 pages of translations and insights, and now 1,000 audio programs. Something happened beginning about a year ago, and it has accelerated in the last 6 months. And what it is that after having built this foundation and coming to know the players in God's story and how he is telling his story and how he has laid it out from the beginning, now I can read something like today. I had one of the most profound revelations of my life. One so profound that when we started to do this show earlier before lunch, I said, quite frankly, I don't think I'm in the right frame of mind to do it because I'm just too amazed by what I just encountered. One of the greatest discoveries of my life. And it is something that I had translated scores of times, and I never saw it. And isn't until you develop this huge reservoir of not only knowing and understanding, and you really become familiar with the story that YAHOWAH is telling and how he's telling it, that you're in a position to see the interconnection between things. And the one I'm talking about today is the story of the Choder and Yeshayahu, Isaiah 11. It's the story of the tree of knowledge in Genesis Bereshith 2. It's exactly the same person, the same entity, the same essence. That's why it's an Etzah. You know, the fourth on the list of benefits of the Spirit is Etzah. Right. Etzah is a tree. Etzah is a tree. And it's the tree of what? Well, the sixth of the spiritual benefits is Diath. You know what Diath is? It's the Etz of Diath. That's the tree of knowledge that's planted in the garden. And oh, by the way, according to what was written in Yeshaya 11 and spoken by Yahweh, that Etz tree of Diath, of knowledge, is para, is productive. It is the fruitful and productive bowl. And so you see these things and say, wait a minute, it's the exact same story. He chose the same verb, which is nuach, to spiritually settle down and remain, with Adam and with the choder. And the entire story of the garden, the central figure in the story of the garden isn't Yahweh. It's not Adam. It's not Chawah. It's not the serpent. It's the damn tree. And so the choder, it's not a messianic figure. As the mother goddess posted the other day, that their chat box said, oh no, it's a messianic reference. It can't be to this fellow Craig Winn, yada. It's a damn tree. It's the tree of knowledge. And you know why the choder is the tree of knowledge? The tree of knowledge is the star player in the Bereshith account of the garden, is because without that tree of knowledge, no one is ever going to recognize or find or benefit from the tree of lives. And the tree of lives is Dode. God's most important story. So there we have it. All right. So knowing and understanding does become easier. The more you know and understand, the easier it is to know and understand. So maybe, and that's what Dode meant. Otherwise, I was going to pick a fight with him and say, wait a minute, pal, this was not easy for you because I read what you've written and it's not been easy for me. So why did you say it was easy? And well, now I think I understand.
Maybe it was just for those of us that just have to read the books and not write the books.
Okay, well, maybe that's true.
When we stand on shoulders of giants, it makes things a little easier, and we can be simpler. You know?
Speaking of shoulders of leaders, do you know that in the Bereshith account, this would be in between after Yahweh speaks of the two trees. You know, it's a great crescendo up to the moment of the two trees, of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and then the tree of lives. There is a break before he puts Adam, Nuach, into the garden. And the break goes from 10 to 14 and the second chapter. Do you know what it's speaking of? It says it speaks of a river singular, a source of water.
Right.
Of course, that source of water is directly related to the Adam of Parah. That's during the sacrifice that God's going to release torrents of subterranean water underneath the Temple Mount to purge the religiosity of the adulterous woman that is Israel, the remnant. But then it says it's divided, that this whole process is divided into four. Does it say four rivers?
I always thought it did. It give names.
No, it doesn't. I did too. It doesn't. It says four Rosh. 4 leaders.
Oh yeah, and we say the heads of the rivers, but no, it's just Rosh.
4 leaders, 4 leaders, Rosh, and those 4 leaders, the 4 names: Moshe, Dode, Elia, and Yada.
Wow.
Now I have the whole thing queued up, and we're going to do a program or programs on it. But the interesting thing is that he defined Moshe as the man that was surrounded by that which is cantankerous and embittered, defining the Exodus. He defines Elia as a sarcastic prick. Now, by the way, that sounds like a pejorative in English because we identify the prick, with a piece of anatomy. That's not how it is being identified by Yahweh. A prick is like a thorn, something that you would poke holes in something, and a thorn that you would irritate, and a thorn that you'd make a hedge to barricade, because he was the guy that pierced holes in the religiosity and the political nature of Israel. And he's going to do so again. And he did so with very sarcastic delivery of words. So it was offered as a tremendous compliment. And you know how he defines that last guy? He's the Perah.
Productive.
He's the fruitful and productive bull. That's the last of the rivers. So yeah, it's the so-called rivers that flow out. No, they're not rivers at all. It's the four characters in God's story. And so you're looking at this and say, "Oh my God, he is just so good at telling his story." And then the story that follows happens to be of the meltdown of YAHOWAH and her wanting to be. Guess what? What did she want to be?
She wanted to be a goddess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she wanted to be a goddess. And what is it that brought us back to all of this?
Goddess cult.
The Mother Goddess
the
cult.
MGC.
Yeah, they sure did. And so it turns out that the story of YAHOWAH happens to be prophetic of the story of the Mother Goddess cult.
Wow.
And then as much as I was kicking myself all around the lot today, man, I was so upset with myself. How in the world could you have presented this position on the Choder so many times? And here it just came up. The Mother Goddess cult presented it based upon the analysis of a chatbot as it's a messianic claim, and it's claimed by Jesus, and it's a messianic claim. It cannot be yada. And so I'm dealing with what it actually says. And here I find out that it is the tree of knowledge that they're coveting. And guess what? YAHOWAH coveted in the garden. She wanted to be a goddess, and she wanted to control the tree of knowledge. Mm-hmm. And why did Satan want her to control the tree of knowledge? Because if he could control and preempt the tree of knowledge, no one would ever find or return to the tree of lives. We'd all be dead.
Wow.
And so I was realizing, well, the reason that you were retarded, developmentally disabled is the appropriate term, I guess, in my case, and did not figure this out for 24 years, is that if you had figured that out 24 years ago, there never would have been a Mother Goddess cult. There would never have been a fracture in the family. They wouldn't have positioned all of these things. And then YAHOWAH said, but wait a minute, I wrote about it, and Numbers 12, I told you the whole story of Miriam and her rebellion and how she would attack Moshe's wife and then claim to speak for God. And what I don't want to. I gave all that.
I don't want to waste the material.
I don't want to waste the material. I told this whole story on YAHOWAH this way, just so that you could repudiate them. I don't want to waste this material. And so, man, you can't know too soon. And oh, by the way, I want you to feel the sting of a fractured family, because you can't be part of the family and do this job until you have some empathy for what I've endured.
Right.
And what Moshe and Dode have endured. So, oh, by the way, you need to experience this. And now I'm giving you the ammunition to refute it. So that's why I was developmentally delayed and being able to figure it out. Well, that
just the right timing.
Yeah. Just the right timing. Mm-hmm. Profound. So, Carl, I know. And if you were to read YAHOWAH, you would know too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much done Elon here. We don't need to do any more of Elon. I just love this image, because isn't that exactly how you would have pictured the Antichrist, the corporeal manifestation of Satan? Doesn't that just, with all the light on him and the dark,
the
room,
lighting, exactly,
surrounded by all of that gaudiness, isn't that, and pictures of dead men? Isn't that exactly as you would have pictured the Toralist one? And here we are. I mean, we are the first to identify Donald Trump as the Antichrist. Yeah, I know there's somebody that participates in these programs that says that, no, there was a street preacher that didn't write, I don't think, but he said, in their first term that Donald Trump is the Antichrist. He had no clue as to why. He just read that there were traits. Yeah, the Toralist one, the great betrayer of Israel, the corporeal manifestation of Satan, is presented as egomaniacal. And so he said, well, you can't be a bigger narcissist than Trump, so it probably is Trump. he had no idea about the goatish comb over here, the fact that ultimately he'll be in a wheelchair, that he is a man that's very long in days and that's very old, that he would work through a 10-nation confederacy, that he would be the one who ultimately betrays Israel, and that his timing had to be concurrent with the fulfillment of YAHOWAH. And all of the other traits that, for example, that he'd be a confabulator and have no regard whatsoever for integrity. And at the time, we didn't know that Donald Trump was grossly immoral, which is Satan's trademark. He likes sexual perverts. That's why he chose Muhammad. That's why he chose Paul. And so Satan has a type. He didn't know any of that. So he knew, 1% of what we know. We have correctly not only identified and we proved that this is the man. With every day, with every time he opens his mouth, he affirms it. I went from being exceedingly nervous about talking about the obvious, because it's obvious in Yeshua, Isaiah, and in Daniel, and in Ezekiel, that he is the coppercon. He's the coppercon of Ezekiel, who does all the measuring for the grand edifices that Satan wants to build for his naming rights. And it was so obvious that it was Donald Trump. And so I began to talk about this the night of his election on November 4th of last year. Now a little over a year ago. But it became exceedingly uncomfortable because the man, was 79 years old, and you're saying, wait a minute, how in the world can a 79-year-old man survive the next 8 years to fulfill these prophecies when it looks like he's falling apart? And so it became really nervous to make that kind of a pronouncement, because you don't want to be wrong and misinterpret the prophets. But with every day, every word, every disaster, every move, every bribe, every lie, every new affirmation of sexual perversity, that man right there is the corporeal manifestation of Satan. He is the one that the prophets foretold.
Yeah, it does. It becomes more and more clear.
Obvious. All right, sir. What do you have as a next one here?
More on the greatness of Grok.
Well, the greatness of Grok. Yeah. This is a guy decided he's got his death stake, and I still am just totally horrified that 2.5 billion people would rally around the image of a dead God on a stick. That a dead God on a stick would be their symbol. Yep, we love our God tortured. We like him dead. So we're going to take the Roman death stake, the beast that is presented in Daniel as being the most vicious in the world history. We're going to take their most vicious torture implement, and we're going to make that our symbol. And we're going to claim that God became a man and that these men killed him on that stick. And that stick then is going to be the symbol of our religion. And they're going to use that religion to oppose the religion where Allah is actually Satan. It's just astonishing how stupefying religion becomes.
And them coming to conflict in all places, Dearborn, Michigan, at this time, over what?
Well, the fact is that in Dearborn, Michigan, you have a majority now, or certainly a large percentage of Muslims, and they are praying in the streets. They are threatening. They're saying death to Jews, and that their religion will conquer America. They're quite belligerent there in Michigan. It's interesting, by the way, Michigan. No, it's interesting that, by the way, that Michigan was the swing state that ultimately catapulted Trump into the White House. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing about that is that, of course, Elon Musk spent a lot of money there. But the reason that Michigan carried the day for Trump is that Muslims were told to vote for him. Mm-hmm. The Saudi Arabians and the Kuwaitis and United Arab Emirates had funded the Muslims in Wisconsin and in Michigan and told them to vote for Trump because they knew they had bribed him. And that's the reason Donald Trump was elected. is in support. He got the support of the Muslim vote. He had the overwhelming preponderance of the Muslim vote in Michigan. And what's interesting, of course, is that Trump 45, the first term, was hugely anti-Islam. Trump 47 is owned and operated by Muslims. Completely.
Whoever's paying the bills.
What happened? Well, they became demon-possessed. If you become demon-possessed, what's going to be your religion? What religion are you going to promote if you're a demon?
Right. The one that's overtly Allah? Overtly satanic?
Yeah, overtly. Yes, overtly satanic. I mean, they're all satanic, but it's just that Islam is the worst of a bad lot. So we move on down here. We've already done that. That's a repeat of one. I think we've done old Elon. Yeah. So this is the guy. So what Trump has agreed to do is exactly what I said was going to happen. He's declared that Saudi Arabia is now a non-NATO ally, a really big ally of the United States, military ally of the United States. So I would ask you, what is it that Saudi Arabia has that would be a defensive, as a military, for example, to defend America? How would Saudi Arabia serve in the defense of America? Because we had our largest military base was in Saudi Arabia, and after our response to in the Gulf War, Saudi Arabia required America to abandon the $5 billion base, and we moved it to Qatar. So we at one time had our largest Middle East based in Saudi Arabia. That is not true anymore. Okay, so what do they have?
To come to the United States, aid?
Yeah. So if you're going to have an ally, means that you're allied, and this is a military alliance. It's like a NATO alliance. So you're allied military. What is the United States going to get? There's going to be a benefit to the United States in terms of its defense from Saudi Arabia. So what's Saudi Arabia giving for their side of this equation? I'll tell you what America is giving. What is Saudi Arabia giving?
Petrodollars, the only thing, but that's not military.
That's not military. Petrodollars is it. Now, what is the United States giving? What I said is that the United States would pledge the United States military to defend Saudi Arabia if necessary, if attacked. Or so if Israel, for example, got in a war and Saudi Arabia decided to join on the side of other Muslims and attack Israel, and Israel tried to defend itself, the United States would not go to war on behalf of Israel. It would send its military in to fight on behalf of Saudi Arabia. And if that sounds extreme to you, what happened when Saddam Hussein, who was an American ally, invaded Kuwait and was headed to Saudi Arabia? Who stopped him? Whose lives, whose blood, whose coin was spilled to protect Kuwait and Saudi Arabia?
Oh, American.
American, U.S. American military men and women shed their blood, and we shed our coin fighting to protect Saudi Arabia, the very perpetrators of 9/11, and of Kuwait, the primary funders at the time of Hamas worldwide. Now that's Saudi Arabia at this point. And so the United States has gone to war and have had Americans die protecting Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, but never Israel. And now we're putting it in writing that the United States is forming a military alliance with Saudi Arabia, that if Saudi Arabia is attacked, America military will come to defend Saudi Arabia. That's what they get. America gets squat. Why? Because Donald Trump is bribed. We know that prior to Bitcoin, it was 20 billion, and Bitcoin is probably 3 times that. They bribed him. And so they bought the U.S. military. That is what happened. That's why he's thumbs up, baby.
I bet. I came into this office broke, and look at me now.
And Saudi MBS, thumbs up. I just bought the U.S. military. Now it cost me $20 billion. Bought the whole damn military. Something we spend $1 trillion a year on, and he bought it for what a deal. He's now he should write The Art of the Deal. He bought it for $20 billion.
Right. Wow.
So let's switch. We'll do a couple on
Go over to Facebook?
and let's go to Facebook and do a couple just to be fair here. This is a post that I thought was interesting. Bannon, of course, has been amongst the most immoral MAGAs from the beginning. He has been one of Trump's most faithful supporters, even though Trump has gone against him and then started to work with him again. But Bannon is the mouthpiece for the likes of Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller is the Goebbels of this administration of the Fourth Reich. And Bannon would be the chief cheerleader of it. And so he's saying, okay, and he wrote during that last election, he says the only thing that's going to stop this is the Epstein files. And it's been the case from the beginning that he knew that the ominous danger for Trump was Epstein. And that if the Republicans, in fact, he's gone off to say after this last round of elections, that if Republicans face the same result that they faced on this group of elections that just transpired a few weeks ago, that Democrats will take over the House and the Senate. And under that circumstance, it's 100% certain that Trump will be impeached and then convicted. Sure. 100% certain. And that his presidency will be over. And so he is now looking at the Trumpster, the dumpster, as I like to say, and saying, what now, pal? Now that the Epstein files are released, what now? And so I just came to the conclusion that the reason that Trump finally said, all right, we're going to have the vote, and I say, vote to release them, is that he knew he was going to be outvoted by a veto-proof margin. And this way he can say, I took credit for it. I wanted it released.
Exactly.
Right. And that he also knows that he has enough pieces that are chaotically already presented around the board. The potential of economic collapse for the United States, putting U.S. Marines, active duty U.S. Marines in U.S. cities, starting a war against America under the ruse of narco-terrorism, invading invading Venezuela, bombing Mexico. The idea that the U.S. and other allies are sending long-range missiles into Russia that will cause Russia to respond and ultimately take it out on America and European countries, creating enormous chaos in the world. The very collapse of the U.S. dollar as a reserve currency. He has enough chaos, and also the declaration that there will be a Islamic State. The fact that he's building a U.S. military base on the border with Gaza to involve Americans in that quagmire. The fact that his most recent deal for Gaza, for his peace board, does not require the demilitarizing of Hamas, or the resignation or the removal of Hamas, or even Hamas laying down their weapons. You've got so much going on here that he's absolutely certain, in the way that he has dealt with things before, that he will prevail through chaos, he will prevail through denial, and he will prevail through vindictiveness. And the fact of the matter is that even if you had a picture of him with naked girls who are underage on his lap, he knows that there is no chance of prosecution of him as a criminal, because most of the women have signed non-disclosure agreements for millions of dollars. And the fact is that it would be exceedingly difficult to take a sitting president to trial, and he could write a pardon for himself. And so he knows he is already hated by those that have morality. He knows that he is already loved by those who have no morality. And what difference is it going to make? He's a jerk, and everybody knows he's a jerk. So he's a sexual pervert and a liar. So what's more of it?
Yeah.
That's what he's figuring out. What's normal? Get it over with. Let's move past it, and we'll go on from there. I'll create such chaos. Listen, if there are elections in 2028, first of all, I'd be surprised if there actually are elections. I think that we'll be under martial law. We'll have the U.S. military throughout U.S. cities. I think they will be in major economic collapse. I think there'll be wars, and that Donald Trump will do everything he can to prevent an election. And if there is an election, the votes won't matter because he's not leaving office. He didn't destroy the East Wing of the White House and start building that ballroom to himself, which, by the way, seems to be stalled at the moment, for any other reason than he doesn't ever intend to leave that office. So he could be impeached, and he would use the U.S. military to prevent his ouster. So that's the answer as to what's going on there. This one is actually better as a post, just because it's a whole lot of things with 10 words or less. So, this is the billionaire who hides his tax returns. This is the genius who hides his college grades that were D's and F's. This is the businessman who managed to bankrupt a casino.
The house always wins.
This is the man who calls himself a playboy and yet had to pay for sex with Stormy Daniels. This is the innocent man who refuses to testify and to release testimony against him. Oh, he is, of course, the great patriot who dodged the draft at least 4 times for a mythical bone spur in his heel. He's the philanthropist whose charity has been made illegal by the U.S. court systems. Oh, yeah, he is the MAGA Christian Messiah, but he doesn't go to church or I don't think he's ever read a Bible. But nonetheless, he is the antithesis of what he claims to be, is what that says. He is the great betrayer. He is the corporal manifestation of Satan. You got to get used to it. He's demon possessed. That's who he is.
In every instant, it's absolutely the opposite of what he says.
Yeah, this is amazing. This young lady is pictured below.
Oh,
yeah. He on Air Force One, when she asked him about the Epstein files, which is something should be done. Right now it's the #1 item in the news. It won't be by the time that Trump's done with it. He asked her. She asked him about it on Air Force One, and his response to her was, "Quiet, quiet, piggy." I mean, what man responds to a woman whose job it is to ask questions, who asked a legitimate question, and you respond to her by saying, "Quiet, piggy"? What kind of a creep is that? And if you're a MAGA, how could you support that? You think it's appropriate to call a woman a piggy?
And it's not just for her, it's for the next one to think about, you want to ask a question too. Think about what, how I'm going to dress you down publicly.
Correct. Correct. Oh, he does it all the time. And when somebody in the Oval Office asks me a question, you're the stupidest, dumbest, most useless piece of trash, failed journalism school. What in the hell? Your network should be embarrassed for you. He just goes on and on. He is exceedingly nasty. No one has ever been just as condescending and revolting. He is exactly as one would expect Satan. No respect for women. No respect for people.
People, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Get a good look at this sucker here. You know what that is there, my friend?
That is a black hole.
That is a black hole. And that is the most detailed picture we've ever taken of the event horizon. That is the light that is swirling around, about to be pulled into the black hole. Because before it goes in the black hole, it actually begins to spin and stretch at enormous speeds and temperatures before it ever goes and gets trapped into that black hole. But I'm just saying, I think there's a lot of people out there that ought to get a really good look at this, because that's where they're headed.
The home sweet home.
If you're promoting Donald Trump, if you're promoting Marxism, if you're promoting conspiracy, anti-Semitism, you are promoting religion as opposed to just being fooled by it, that's home. I don't think it's a very roomy place, but And I don't think there's any way to turn the lights on either.
Well, some of them even have that as their logo.
Oh yeah, see that?
That's the Grok.
Yeah,
logo
that is
right
that is the Grok logo and the new version. Yeah, one of the things too that's just so disgusting today is that what Grok and AI are doing is they're destroying this connection, this an appreciation of what's real. I remember, every day you see pictures, you say, well, that's really spectacular. And then you reckon, wait a minute, that's AI.
Mm-hmm.
And you're sitting there all the time now. You're afraid even to look at something with any degree of appreciation because, well, it's AI. It's blurring the lines between fantasy and reality. The thing that Elon wants to brag all the time that X can do is that it creates these fantasy figures and pretend animations.
Mm-hmm.
What could be worse? Taking boys and girls that are hooked on being gamers and playing in this imaginary world of social media, and now you're adding the capacity for them to move into the unreal world of fake animations, fake reality. It's a really scary place we're taking the world.
Cynicism is definitely on the rise. You have to be to survive nowadays. Because I don't think there's anyone out there thinking that, things are getting better.
Well, Elon is. Oh yeah, Optima is going to take care of it.
If he sells
Grok
it,
AI
things get better for him.
is going to think everything for you, so you won't have to think anymore. And Optima is going to do all of your work, and it's going to keep you healthy, and it's going to tend to your criminals. You don't need prisons anymore. It's going to be it's going to replace your doctors. It's going to be your best pal, your total entertainment system. Yeah, who needs people? We've got robots.
Yeah,
it's better. And if it doesn't get better, what the hell? We'll go to Mars. Yeah, this post was close, and the Nakba people, the Muslims, say it all began in 1948 when they called the Great Nakba, the Great Travesty of Jews returning to what they would then call their land, which of course was not their land. There's no such thing as a Palestinian. It hasn't been one for 23 centuries. And the Palestinians, the Philistines of old, never really made it out of Gaza anyway. And they were long ago made extinct by the Egyptians and the Babylonians and the Assyrians and the Greeks. So there are no more. And so that whole thing is a complete myth, but nonetheless, they view 1948 as the Great Nakba. And they say, it didn't start on October 7th, 23. It started in 1948 when those dastardly Jews came back. Now, the fact is, this person is saying, no, it happened in November of 636 when the invading army of Muslims, after Muhammad's death, conquered Jerusalem. And they besieged Jerusalem. And I said, no, that's not when it began. It began in 622. And 622 is when Muhammad weaseled his way into Yathrib, a farming community of 30,000 Jews, and proceeded to get the Jews to loan them money and provide housing for those Muslims, and then provided the script for the Quran. And then Muhammad turned on them. And beginning in 622, he imposed apartheid on the Jews of Yathrib, today's Medina. And then that led ultimately to the beheading of the remaining Jews that he hadn't exiled. He beheaded every man and boy. He raped every woman. He sold every child into slavery to buy more weapons. And then following his capitulation at the Treaty of Hudaybiyah a year later, Muhammad went up to Kabar, was the last vestige of Jews in Arabia. That was another date farming community. That's when the phrase Allahu Akbar, Allah is greater than the God of the Jews, YAHOWAH, is the intent. It's the Islamic prayer of fear. And over the course of days, he besieged the community. They tortured the men to death. They cut off their heads at the end. They played a game of lots to choose after Muhammad got first choice to rape the women. Muhammad chose the kings of that community, the leader's wife, whom he made watch him and his goons torture the man to death by burning a fire on his chest. And then Muhammad and his goons killed her sons, killed her husband, and then Muhammad took her captive and raped her. That's Muhammad. And they then stole everything that was in the community, and they took all the children and sold them into slavery. So that's when this all began. I just think it's important people to know that.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds just like October 7th.
And if you want absolute proof, there's 5 volumes of this. 5 of them. They take every word of the Quran, put it in chronological order, set it into the context of Muhammad's life with the oldest and most credible hadith sources, which, by the way, come from exactly the same people, and they were passed on and retained exactly the same way. There really is no difference in Quran and hadith. Exactly the same people deliver them, passed on to us, mouth to ear, exactly the same way by exactly the same people on exactly the same subject. As a matter of fact, the Quran is incomprehensible without the hadith, and every Muslim that is a scholar knows that. And so I use the hadith, the oldest hadith sources, particularly the chronological ones, one by Ibn Ishaq, which is the life of the messenger of Allah, and then Tabari's Tariq, which is the history of Islam's formation. And I use them to reorder the Quran chronologically, the first to ever do it, and set it in the context of Muhammad's life and reveal the truth about Allah, Muhammad, the Quran, the hadith, the first Muslims. It's devastating. You want to know how to deal with saving Israel from it, saving the world from them? Read the book. Read the books. It's irrefutable. I don't quote any sources other than the earliest and most credible Islamic sources to destroy the religion.
Still there? Oh, there we go.
Yeah, that was the deal that was done yesterday, isn't it? It was actually done months ago, but commemorated yesterday. Yeah, Donald, I give you gold. For you and your family, I give you gold. And Donald, I give you to Saudi Arabia, the most advanced fighter jets in the world, which you only have one enemy, that would be Israel. So what we're doing here is we're walking over the body of dead Jews to do this deal. That's why Netanyahu is laying on the ground. We're going to kill a lot of Jews together. Won't it be fun? And yet the Jews view Donald Trump as the reincarnation of Cyrus, their Messiah. Whatever happened to the bright people that should have known better? Let's do one more.
One more.
Pretty simple, right? There was never a Jew named Jesus. When was the name Jesus first invented?
17th century.
Yeah.
Well, the J.
Early 17th century, the first time a J was invented. When Paul wrote his mythology, his first 14 books in the Christian New Testament were all written by Paul. And the last of them was written 10 years before there was a gospel, and gospel happens to be Paul's term as well. And the two people that wrote the first two of these gospels were both Paul's posse. They were both Paul's publicist and Paul's pal, Mark and Luke. When they came up with the name of this myth that would be the counterfeit of the actual Messiah and Son of God, what did they call him? Do you know?
Iasun.
Yeah, Ayusun. And is that a Hebrew name?
No, that's Greek.
That's a Greek name.
That's Greek.
So there never was a Jew named Jesus. There was never a Jew named Iusus. Not in the first century. Not even now in the 21st century. Not now. Not ever. If you're a Christian, your religion is based on a fundamental lie. I don't tell you that to be irritating to you. I tell that to you to be liberating. It's the greatest gift I could give you. You know, it's like the people who have been told over and over again that the bridge across a chasm is trustworthy, and they don't know that the bridge ends halfway over the chasm and dumps everyone to their death. And yet they keep on marching across. And the one guy that says, don't do that. It isn't safe. It's a scam. Don't go there. Protect your life. Protect your family. Go this way instead. That guy is not your foe. He's your friend. So, my friend, that brings us to, I guess, the next one down there, which is, I can see my favorite. Dodds has an affinity for the nines, the 19th, the 91st, and the 119th. And, of course, YAHOWAH's the 89th. They are the great, great Psalms that all tell us what we need to know. So, my friend, we've done a second vlog on the vlog. It's a pleasure to be able to do this with you. Next time we'll do a little more on Facebook, a little less on X. It's a little more, little less of a caustic environment. And I'll try to, it's one of the challenges of responding to your feed on these places is that once I begin, for example, on X, to pose insights into what is really going on with Elon Musk, the Grok says, oh, I must like those feeds. And so it says you must agree with those feeds. I'll give you more of them. Right. So it gets to be a little bit much because it's just like Rich was wondering, why in the world am I getting so many Christian posts on my feed? And it's because he took the time on a couple of them to respond to them and say, don't go on that bridge. That bridge, your bridge of faith, is busted. It's going to lead to your death. He wasn't saying, I want more of these. He was saying, I want less of these. But you see, AI isn't very smart. All it can do is count and say, well, you responded to it, so you must want more of them. And that is the nature of this. And so I'll have to be a little more careful and not respond to so many on the same subject. But it's hard to do on these things because that's the way artificial intelligence works and the way the sites are programmed.
For sure.
So there we go. An amazing experience. The vlog on the vlog. As we talk through number the 2. News items. Yeah, number 2 as we talk through the news items of the day. I'm sure we'll do another one next Wednesday, and maybe we'll sneak in one between now and then. I'm told by my wife, who is also our brand manager, that there's going to be a nifty logo for vlog on the blog, and that also we're going to create a short form introduction that she's already working on. She might be working on it with you, so that the introduction to these programs, which is now interminable, it's 18 seconds, which I think at one time used to be the norm. But people's attention spans are so short now, we need to take it down to like 6 seconds.
Just a quick hitter. Yeah, here we are.
Just a quick hitter. So here we are, and let's go. So that's our path going forward. I was trying to get Wookiee to sign up, and I'd have those talking dogs will have Wookiee say, "Okay, here's my dad."
the vlog on a blog.
Yeah, the dog on a vlog for the blog. We'll see what we can do with that. But anyway. Thank you for participating. I think this is it's a fun way, even though the news is dark. I mean, we're entering the time of Israel's troubles. The next 8 years is going to be horrific, and it's painful to report a future history. But you're better off forewarned than you will be completely left to wonder what in the world is happening. And when it begins to happen and unfold, as we have been saying, and thus far. I've made many, many hundreds of these forecasts and predictions. Haven't got one wrong. Yeah. So the likelihood that I'm reading the prophets correctly and this is what's going to happen going forward is virtually certain. And when it does, you'll be prepared.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Kevin. Yes?
We have a way out. YAHOWAH.com.
Yes, we do have a way out. YAHOWAH.com. Start with an introduction to God. There are 35 books at YAHOWAH.com. It means to know Yah. 35 books with a very innovative and comprehensive translations of the Torah, prophets, and Psalms, scrubbed of all religiosity, going back to the oldest extant sources so that you can actually know who God is. And you won't need any belief. No religion, no belief. Oh, by the way, it's free. No donations. We don't accept anything. Every book is free in its entirety. We don't even have you register. You don't have to.
We don't even care who you are. We don't want to know.
We don't even care
who
you are. You don't have to. You don't get to sign up with your email. You can go there totally anonymously. We're not tracking anybody. We pay no attention to who's there, and we even make ourselves difficult to find because, well, I'm not so good anymore at answering emails because we spend too much of our day doing other things. But we're not here to bother you at all. You're not going to ask you for money, not going to ask you for a following, not going to ask you for anything, and everything we're offering to you, including all 25,000 pages of research so that you can actually know God and understand what he's offering and capitalize upon it, is free.
It's the
Thank
best
you.
return on investment.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Kevin. We'll do this again soon.